Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a really fascinating story. It involves presidential travel, international deals, and, well, a bit of a who said what's puzzle.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Our main source here is a CNN politics piece from May 19th, 2025. And it's all about this potential deal for a Boeing 747 from Qatar.
That might just become the next Air Force One, believe it or not.
And the core question really is this. Did Qatar just offer up this jet as a gift? You know, former President Trump suggested.
Or did the U.S. actually ask first? That's the nub of it.
It sets up this really interesting conflict right away.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to sort of dig into these two very different stories and see what the evidence in this article suggests. I mean, when you're talking about the president's plane...
Every detail matters, yeah.
Yeah.
It touches on international relations, how these big deals even happen, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, let's get into it then. What exactly did former President Trump claim about this whole thing?
Well, according to the article, he was pretty upfront. Said Qatar offered this Boeing 747 as a gift, free of charge. That's the quote.
A gift, just like that.
Yeah, presented as a temporary stand-in for Air Force One. And he apparently even had a plan for it, later donated to his presidential library.
Wow.
He called it a gesture or a contribution from the Qatari royals. Sounds quite straightforward, doesn't it? Like simple generosity.
It really does. A spare 747, here you go. But like you said, the CNN article paints a totally different picture. What did their sources say?
Right. So CNN talked to 4 people. Sources, they say, have direct knowledge of what went down. And their story, well, it completely contradicts that gift idea.
How so?
These sources claim it was actually the Trump administration that first went to Qatar about getting a 747.
Okay, so the U.S. initiated it.
That's what they're saying. So not an unsolicited offer out of the blue, but more like the U.S. was actively looking and made the first move. That's a pretty major twist right there.
That changes the whole dynamic, doesn't it? From a generous donation to, well, it's something much more like a standard procurement almost.
Exactly.
So why the sudden need for a replacement Air Force One anyway? What was going on with the timeline?
Yeah, the timeline's really important here. The article lays it out. After Trump took office, the Pentagon talked to Boeing, you know, the folks who build and maintain Air Force One.
Right.
And they learned the brand new replacements, the ones being built specifically for the job, were facing delays. They wouldn't be ready for another couple of years, pushing delivery past 2025.
And I guess that delay created a sense of urgency. They needed something sooner.
That seems to be the case. The administration wanted a replacement plane much faster than, say, 2027.
So what did they do?
Well, Trump apparently tasked his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, to basically find a list of planes that could work, planes that were available, you know, sooner rather than later.
You can almost picture him scrolling jets for sale.
Yeah, a very high-stakes search for a used jet.
So how did Qatar's plane even get on the radar?
Well, after the Pentagon found out about the delays, Boeing apparently helped out. They gave U.S. defense officials a list of their clients who had 747s that might fit the bill.
And Qatar was on that list.
Qatar was on the list.
Oh, yeah.
So Boeing kind of played matchmaker here, in a way.
Okay, so the U.S. gets this list, sees the Qatari plane. Did they then call up Qatar and ask for that gift Trump mentioned?
Well, according to CNN sources, no, not quite. The Pentagon reportedly offered to buy the plane from Qatar.
Buy it. Okay.
Yeah. And the article even hints that maybe the first talks were about leasing it. Not necessarily buying outright, and definitely not framing it as a gift initially.
That sounds much more like a standard government negotiation.
It certainly does, much less like a spontaneous act of generosity.
Okay, let's flip this around. What about Qatar's side of the story? What have they said publicly?
Well, the Qatari Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Al Thani, he actually talked to CNN about this. And he really seemed to downplay the whole gift idea.
How did he describe it?
He called it a very simple government-to-government dealing, straightforward, between the two defense ministries, about the possibility of transferring a 747-8 to be used as Air Force One. And he stressed it was still under legal review.
So very official, very bureaucratic.
Exactly. He specifically said it has nothing to do with personnel, which sounds like he's, distancing it from being a personal favor to Trump.
Right.
He just kept highlighting the legal side, the government processes. But he did say Qatar was willing to help the U.S. out if the whole thing is legal.
So Qatar is sticking to the official channels narrative, really undermines the informal gift idea further.
Absolutely.
So we have the U.S. seemingly making the first move, Qatar describing it as a formal deal. Where does that leave things now? Is this Qatari 747 actually going to become Air Force One soon?
Hold your horses there. The article makes it clear that lawyers from both sides are still, quote, hashing out the deal.
So it's not done yet.
Not even close, it sounds like. Despite all the talk, no final decision's been made. There's still this big legal review going on.
Right.
It's definitely not as simple as just accepting a plane.
And what about the plane itself? The value, was it like a brand new jet?
Well, some reports put the value around $400 million. But the article also mentioned sources saying it's likely depreciated quite a bit since Qatar first bought it. So even the money side isn't totally clear.
Now, the White House must have weighed in on this. What was their official line?
Initially, yeah. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, she did refer to it as a donation to our country.
Okay, so leaning towards the gift idea.
A bit, yeah. But interestingly, both Washington and Doha have also kept stressing that any transfer would be totally legal, handled between the defense ministries.
So sort of trying to have it both ways, balancing the donation language with the official process reality.
It kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? A delicate communications game, maybe?
Okay, beyond the legal stuff and the politics, what about just the practical side? Taking a commercial jet from Qatar and turning it into Air Force One, is that easy?
Oh, absolutely not. That's a huge job. Current and former officials told CNN that just retrofitting a used plane like this, it could take up to 2 years. And it could potentially cost more than the plane itself.
Wow. More than the plane, just to upgrade it.
Exactly. You have to think about all the secure communications, the defense systems, special power, everything the president needs. It's not just putting in some nice seats, it's a total jutting and rebuilding, basically.
Oh, it's staggering. A 2-year job, potentially doubling the cost.
Right. U.S. spy agencies, security folks, they'd have to go through it inch by inch. One former counterintelligence official even questioned if it could be done safely and quickly enough. That's a pretty serious flag.
And this is all for what's essentially supposed to be a temporary plane, right? While the actual permanent replacements are still being built.
That's the plan, yeah. Those 2 new Boeing 747-800s, the purpose-built ones, they're now expected sometime in 2027.
Which is later than they originally thought.
Yeah, a few years behind schedule. And that delay was something President Trump himself had apparently complained about before. He'd even mentioned looking at used planes as an alternative.
Which brings us right back around to this Qatari plane.
Exactly. Full circle.
And just one more piece of the puzzle. Trump actually saw this plane himself, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Back in February 2025, he toured the jet down in Palm Beach. Reportedly commented on how luxurious it was.
What was the official reason for the tour?
His communications director said he was there to see the new hardware technology. So, yeah, he's personally checked out the potential ride.
Okay. So let's try and wrap our heads around this. Pulling it all together, what are the biggest discrepancies that stand out from the article?
The number one thing, I think, is who started it. The evidence in the article really points towards the U.S. government approaching Qatar first.
Directly contradicting the gift story.
Right. And then you have the Qatari prime minister backing that up, framing it as a formal government-to-government thing still under review, not some personal donation.
And what are the big unanswered questions still lingering?
Well, several big ones. Can they actually overcome the legal hurdles? And the practical ones, the time and cost of that massive retrofit. That's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And, the ultimate question, will this deal even happen? With all the legal reviews and the sheer difficulty of the conversion, it could still fall apart.
Definitely a lot of twists and turns. It really makes you think about how these massive international deals actually work or sometimes don't work behind the curtain.
It really does. Yeah. And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it, about the different ways this whole thing has been framed. Why call it a gift versus a formal agreement? What's the angle for each side?
What does it tell us about, diplomacy and presidential communications when things get this complicated?
Exactly. It's a complex picture, and this situation really highlights those complexities. Lots for you, the listener, to chew on there.
Absolutely. A really fascinating deep dive today. Thanks for walking us through it.